Mr. Secretary General, you spoke very kindly and generously about me, also yesterday. But we're entrepreneur today. And let me also say a few words about you, sir, if you allow me. We have worked for many, many years together. And the central message for the youth here today and outside is, there is no other global leader like yourself, sir. And why do I say that? Leadership is obviously about influencing others, hence power. But leadership is also about moral integrity. And it is very, very rare that these two dimensions come together in one person. And quite frankly, sir, you are the one who has inspired me the most in life, because you have that combination of being, in very plain terms, an extremely good man, fighting at your age, sir, every single day on this cause. It's extremely rare, and I want to thank you for that. That was the good part. Now the second part, this is also a good part for me, because yesterday, when you received the highest national honor of this nation, you indicated, sir, you're now also Kenyan. And that comes with a social contract, because you're honorary chair, and you may think you're off the books now, and technically you are, but we really count on you, Mr. Secretary General, in the coming years to really keep leading this cause. So thank you so much, Secretary General. President Macky Sall, sir, Chatham House. I know there are students here, development studies. And I assume when you're a young African leader, you study not just Kenya, you study the continent. You study stories of failure, but you also study stories of success. Mr. President, you were 12 years the president of Senegal. For those who understand the transformation of Senegal, this is unprecedented. And Mr. President, we also worked very closely together. It is you, sir, who drove that transformation together with the people of Senegal. I thank you for that, Mr. President. And also, my second point for you, Mr. President, what is not known normally outside sort of the intrinsic dynamic of diplomacy, when you were chair of the African Union, it was you personally, who created the seed for Africa in the G20. It was you, Mr. President, because of your choice. I was in your office where you said the Africa Adaptation Acceleration Program is the largest program in the world. Will be Africa's program. But it's very easy to say, but if a program is not funded, so you took the bold step. It has never, think about it, it has never happened in global diplomacy, where you as chair of the African Union, with your fellow leaders, you said, I'm not waiting. I'm coming myself to the global north, which you did during the Africa Adaptation Summit, which you chaired, Secretary General, to claim your stake of Africa. This is unprecedented, and this is the aspiration you provide for the continent. And I'm deeply grateful for your role as chair of the Global Center on Adaptation. What you, Ali, together with His Excellency President Ruto, what you do and what the President does outside this nation, because it was President Ruto, 2 years ago, with you, Ali, came to the Netherlands, to our largest floating office in the world. Picture it. The President comes to the floating office, and I had the honor receiving him. It goes up 2 meters, it goes down 2 meters twice a day. And the President said, I'm not a good swimmer. I can tell you that. We're a country of runners, but we need to see results. And you, Patrick, you're white, middle-aged man. You work on Africa, but Africa's solutions cannot be created outside Africa. Africa's solutions need to be created inside Africa. So my instruction to you, Patrick, make it work that the Global Center on Adaptation comes to Africa, but not, he said, as a subsidiary. No. Yesterday, for those who watched it, it was historic. It was the first time that an international organization has now a dual headquarter on an equal footing. South-north, north-south. And that's thanks to you, Ali, for doing the diplomacy behind it. Governor Gladys, your reputation speaks volumes. And for me, as a relative outsider, when I think about the dynamic nature of Kenya, I think about the need for transformative leadership by putting people at the heart of solutions. And I think Gladys, if I may call you Gladys, that's exactly what you do in Homa Bay, and I'm delighted to visit you anytime soon. So now, I have a speech, but last night I called my daughter. I have 5 children. Romee, 17 years old. So I said, I'm going to do an intergenerational dialogue. Intergenerational, I had to explain intergenerational dialogue. She said, Dad, you might be a professor. You might be even the chancellor of the University of Nairobi. And I want to welcome also my sister, Vice Chancellor. But don't lecture, but listen. And I have listened to you. Over the last few years, I have traveled the nation. I was in Macky 2 years ago, and I met Sarah. Sarah was a mother of 5. In the period of drought, she said, I'm fetching water. I'm doing this for years. But now, because of the drought, what I need to walk, or what my kids need to walk, it doubled in distance. So what she did, she had to pull her kids out of school. And because of the AAAP, together with the African Development Bank and with AU NEPAD, we developed a sand bank to capture water so that Sarah's kids could go back to school. I traveled to Muranga a few months ago, after the floods. And I was standing with John and his family, and he showed me, he said, my tea crops washed away. Kids pulled out of school. He said, Patrick, Mr. Chancellor, sir, still have to get used to that. Mr. Chancellor, sir, you talk about adaptation, you talk about development. For me, it's about survival. And I traveled to Mukuru, and I think there are some people from Mukuru here. At least Jane is here. And Secretary General, you and I were there. You mentioned all your travels across the globe, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the Pacific to the Caribbean. But you've been to Mukuru. And you committed in Mukuru to find a solution around economic development. And I also want to acknowledge Jane. Maybe you can stand for all of us. Because Jane You came, and I'm sure you will speak about it later today, with concrete solutions for the people of Mukuru. Now, to your communiqué, 8 points. But quite frankly, it boils down to 1 point. Maximum, 3 points. Jobs, jobs, jobs. But not just jobs. Right? The young people, yourself, not just jobs. Well-paid jobs. Jobs in the 21st century. And that's precisely why, together with Vice Chancellor Hutchinson, I accepted this role as Chancellor, unpaid, to create this connection between education on the one hand and job creation on the other hand. And let me give you one example. We have a fantastic young student at the University of Nairobi, Brian. And Brian came to me and he said, listen, Mr. Chancellor, sir, I have a small AI app, prototype. What does it do? It helps teachers in the rural areas to grade quickly with this app. But this is just an app. This is a prototype. Bill Gates started in the garage. Brian started in the slums. What, he said, can you do, sir, to help me take off? That's precisely why the University of Nairobi launched last year the Big Five, 5 bold initiatives, one of which, Vice Chancellor Hutchinson, indeed, is the Innovation Park, which we launched, so that young entrepreneurs, such as Brian, will meet up with venture capitalists because you are ready for the takeoff. And Secretary General, indeed, Brian, and indeed, Secretary General, you and I met with Yvonne in Cameroon. She came to one of the climate summits. She's from Cameroon. And she had an extraordinary story for me. She said, I'm a waste picker. My mother, a waste picker. Her mother, a waste picker. I'm 18. I have 2 children. But I have a dream. I have a dream. If I would have one drone, and when the rains are coming in the city where she lives, she said, I would let my drone off, fly over the city, see where the waste blockages are, get my waste pickers to unblock so the water can flow, there's no flooding. She said, there's a business. This is a business. Through the support of GCA, Yvonne has now 10 drones, 200 people working for her, back at school. So it's about jobs, it's about resilient jobs. Another point, speaking very frankly, I am from the other side, from the global north. Yes, I'm Chancellor here, but intrinsically, I'm from the global north. And in the Netherlands, we hosted the NATO summit 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you saw that, right? All these tweets flying around. And at the NATO summit, the rich countries, the pact, agreed to 5% of GDP for security, for NATO. But students of diplomacy will read the fine print. It's 5%, but within that, 3.5% hardcore security, but 1.5% for security-related expenditures. And it is my strong view that 1.5% security-related expenditures, part of it should be invested in Africa. Because think about it. What's the #1 2 and 3 agenda item in the West, migration. Africa is, from the global North perspective, the forgotten continent. Why are you so important? As SG said, to raise your voice, to increase the temperature, but at the same time, Governor, indeed, come with very concrete solutions. So your communiqué is extremely important. It's extremely important. And President Macky Sall committed to bring this communiqué from the Africa Climate Summit to the General Assembly to COP30. And if I can take the liberty, Mr. President, to add an asterisk to that commitment, it would be even better that you self-select one of you to come with us to New York, to Brazil, to speak on behalf of the African voices. I thank you very much for your commitment. And my daughter, Romee, 5 children, number 3. She's coming. All my kids, I forced. If you want to become a global citizen, if you think about problem solving, you can't do this from the Netherlands. You have to come to Africa. Why? This is Africa's century. I thank you very much. Asante sana.
Thank you.